Okay, okay, students, let's continue talking about the do's and the don'ts when we are doing the data science projects. Well, the next topic we want to say is we prefer to use exceptions rather than returning nones. Well, and in the old days, when I did Java programming, it was like 10 years ago, maybe. Well, at that time, it's kind of common that in a function, we want to return different special value meaning different things. So for example, if I have a invalid input and then I'm returning a negative 99.99, well, this just means it is a invalid input. Well, at that time we do that. I don't know the in the current Java community if it is still a good practice. I guess not. Okay, so in Python, well, the rule is, well, if you want to return a special value, meaning something special to the caller, that is not a good practice. Well, in the most common way to return a special value is to return a none. Well, this none could mean a couple of things. For example, it could be a runtime error or invalid input or something else. Well, but when we are returning a none, we are leaving the tr- the process of figuring out what is wrong to the caller. Well, this is not a good practice. If there is something wrong when we are processing a function and then we want to give some very specific information. And how do we do that? And then we can use the exceptions. We can even tailor the exceptions so that we give some meaningful feedback to the caller. Well, and for the exceptions, actually we are seeing them a lot when you are having an arrow when you run the code, and then that is an exception. And then, well, you can go scroll down and to the bottom of the arrow message box, and then you will see the name of the exception and then some a little more information. And actually we can tailor the exception as well. So let's see this one. Well, we want to do a function. We take two parameters a and b, and then we do a divided by b. Well, and then if we want to return a divided by b, why don't we just do a divided by b and return? Well, remember, if b is a 0, and then we are going to have an arrow, and it will be 0 division arrow. Well, so if we do this way, we try to return a divided by b as the return value, and if it doesn't work or if there's an exception, and then we use the except part to handle the type of the exception called zero divider a division arrow, and then we are returning a none. So this none really serves as a special value, meaning there is something wrong with the input parameters. So if we want to do this way, and then well, coding the color will be easier. Say we define x is 0 and y is 5, and then we simply want to do a result equal divide x and y, and then if the result is none, and then we can do a invalid input. Well, is that something wrong? That could be something wrong because we may code the condition differently. Well, if not result, because if the result is a none, it will be evaluated as a false. So if not and result, and then we are going to print invalid input. So is this still okay? In this case, it's not because we are trying to evaluate the result as a boolean value, and the rule is if something is evaluated as a boolean, if it is a none or 0 or a empty object, and then they will be evaluated as false. So in this case, we are gonna 0 divided by 5. That's valid. However, we got a 0. And if we are doing if not 0, this 0 will be evaluated as a false, so not false will give you a true, so you're going to get invalid input. However, the problem is not that. Well, this is the part of the confusion we may introduce when we are trying to introduce a none as a special value, meaning something special. Okay? So, well, how about we fix that in a different way? We want to return two things. Well, if there's no arrow, and then we want to return a true, and and the result of the A divided by B. So the first part, we say if it was done successfully or not. If it is true, and then the second part of the result will be A divided by B. And another case will be if we do have an arrow, and then we are returning a false, saying, well, this cannot be done successfully, and also we are returning a none, just meaning, okay, don't even look at me because that's not valid. Okay, and then after coding this way, and we also have to change the color. So now we know the color, well, this function will return two parts. So I have to use two variable names to hold them. So the first part will be success. Well, that will be Boolean, well, true or false. And the second one will be the result. The result could be A divided by B or A none, right? Well, and if not success, and then we want to print invalid input. So is this way okay? Well, it is kind of fine, but it's a little bit visually noisy again because we are making such a simple function cal, and yet we have to return two items. So it's not that handy, I would say. So, well, how about we try it this way? Well, if we are able to return A divided by B, everything's fine. And if we catch an arrow and then we want to raise an arrow, so in this case we are creating an arrow and then we are raising this arrow to the color. So we are creating a arrow message, but no worries. Well, if we do that, and actually we can tell the caller there is a invalid input. So in this way, for this divide, this function has the potential to raise an arrow. So the function cal of the divide also should be considered as a risky code. So if that is a risky code, we want to put that into the try part. So we want to try that and see if we can get the result. If we get the result, okay, that's fine. But if we do have a value arrow, and then we just say, okay, that is invalid input, because that will be an arrow, a value arrow being risen by this function. So we only need to handle that, and then we can print something meaningful. And then we have an else, and this else will be processed eventually, and then we are going to say result is 2.5. Okay, so well, the argument is when you are writing some risky code, well, by knowing this is risky, you want to process the riskiness in the way that the color can be processed, and returning a special value like negative 9999 for one type of the arrow and negative 8888 for another type of the arrow, that is a bad practice. And you can create you can raise several types of the arrows just to tell the caller what's going wrong. Okay, so this for this part, and I will continue in the next video.